Put down your baby and pick up a beer. Dad Jokes is back with another episode. And Brandon, it is our 30th episode. This is the podcast where two first-time dads go through the journey of fatherhood with all of you listening at home. And I'm super excited today, Brandon, because it's our 30th episode, and every 10 episodes we do something that I absolutely love, and that is we have a top 10 list of some sorts, and it's become some of our favorite episodes thus far, and actually some of our listeners' favorite episodes as far as listenership goes.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Jerry. I'm super excited. Those are two dad jokes, drinking games, phrases for those paying attention at home. But seriously, this is a topic I've been looking forward to. We talked about it probably 3 or 4 episodes ago. And I've been looking forward to having this conversation for a few weeks now. So I haven't felt this way about an episode in quite a while, and I've been feeling good about them overall.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. Before we get too much into all the details today, Brandon, I do want to mention that next week, for all of you at home who listen to us week in and week out on a weekly basis, next week we are going to take a 1-week hiatus, just 1 week, and then we'll be back the week after that. So next week, if you're listening to this episode and you don't see anything come out, that is normal. It'll be a 1 week off, and then we're back on. So I'll mention it again at the end of the episode, but just pay attention to that. But that's why we wanted to have our 30th episode first, because it is such a fun episode. And those of you who just started listening to us and maybe haven't listened to our 10th or 20th episode, they're great ones. Check them out because they're a lot of fun and a lot of good details or lists, if you will, in there, Brandon.
Yeah, we've been going 30 weeks strong. It's time to just take a quick break to reset, get a couple things in the can, and we're coming back and better than ever.
Yeah, so today's episode, the top 10 that we're going to do is going to be top 10 surprises about becoming a dad. 5 of them good, 5 of them I won't call bad, but maybe not so great, if you will, Brandon. And it's kind of spurred because we've had a few people on our show that are dads, and we always ask them, what is the biggest surprise about becoming a dad? So today we're looking in the mirror and we're asking ourselves, what have been the biggest surprises about becoming a dad? So we'll get into that soon. But before that, Brandon, the show's named Dad Jokes for a reason. We got dad jokes here. Do you want to go first or second today? I'm going to give you the choice.
I'll go ahead and start it off again this week. I got to redeem myself from last week.
I did take home last week. You even admitted it, so.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. It was a weak showing last week. Jerry, why do ducks have tail feathers?
I just am thinking of Nelly and his song. That's all I can think of right now. So I don't know.
Why do ducks have tail feathers? To cover their butt quacks.
Nice. That's clever. I literally what's the movie that's from? Bad Boys. Bad Boys 2. Yep, that's what I'm thinking of right now. I'm thinking of Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. That movie's great because the beginning of the movie, in the second one, they start singing it and they don't know the words. It's great because they're like, he's like, how you don't know the words?
Hey, sorry for yelling at anybody's ears who has headphones. I won't do that for a little while.
Exactly. So, Brandon, I know that we had a very busy week in our household. I know you've had a very busy week in your household. So why don't you kick it off and tell us a little bit of what's been going on in the Banks household this past week?
Well, we're going to start it off with saying that Sir Bryce, for the foreseeable future until we kind of do some at-home tests and some tests with the doctors, will not be partaking in any peanut butter for a little while.
Oh, no.
We had a little bit of a scare. Now, things changed this morning, which I'll get into. But basically, we mixed in a little bit of peanut butter, like a very small amount, in a puree that we made for him. And noticed quickly thereafter that he had a reaction all over his face. So, one, for all the dads out there, a piece of dad gear that you're going to need and want at home is children's Benadryl. Now, don't use it without consulting your doctor. It's not something that our doctor basically told us, hey, we call it the after hours number. They said give them a small amount of children's Benadryl, gave us the dosage to give them to just kind of counteract that. He also had oatmeal, which he loved this week with cinnamon in it. He had his first avocado and today he was getting a bath, and we noticed that, or Kelsey noticed that his face kind of broke out almost the exact same way. No peanut butter anywhere around. So we're thinking it might have actually been a coincidence that we thought was peanut butter, but it could have something to do with the bath soap or lotion that he gets after a bath. So we're about to basically bathe him and then not use the soap that we used before, use the lotion, see if that does anything, and then vice versa to try to basically eliminate that. So hopefully it's not peanut butter, because his mom loves peanut butter, and selfishly that is a very difficult allergy to deal with, because peanuts touch a lot of different things that are being prepared outside of homes. So that was one thing. A couple nights ago, we made the decision to put Bryce in his crib over sleeping in our room. So he's in his nursery now. It's been 2 nights strong of that. First night went actually amazingly well. Last night was a little bit rougher, but I think it's because he's coming down with some kind of bug that obviously not his fault. His parents are kind of dealing with something similar right now. But he's been sleeping on his own, or sitting on his own and sleeping on his own. And he actually, interesting enough, in the crib tends to sleep on his side more. He
Really?
rolls over to his side and is falling asleep there. So those are.
How's
those
mom
are a
and
few of the
dad
things.
doing with it?
It's interesting. It's different, definitely. I can't say. I don't know if we really have gotten used to it yet. I watched TV for the first time in my room in like 3 months. Actually,
What'd you watch?
I watched Spider-Man. I shouldn't say that because it's not out yet, but
I was gonna say, how'd you watch it? You gotta get me. You gotta get it for me, because I want to watch it.
I got a bootleg version of Spider-Man on this app, so I started. I haven't finished it, and the beginning of that movie I shouldn't really get into, but it's been boring to me so far, to tell you the truth. But I've heard nothing but good things about it, so I'm gonna finish. But I figured out, or figured I might as well hook my headphones up to my TV. So I figured out how to Bluetooth headphones to my TV, and my wife was knocked out. I had it cranked all the way up.
Best by Brandon.
Pretty cool experience. So, but yeah, I haven't watched TV in my room in months. So, but that was our week in a nutshell. What you guys been up to?
We had a really busy week. So the last time we talked, Brandon, was actually a little over a week ago. It was on a Saturday, and the day after was a Sunday. And that Sunday, Macy worked the entire day. So me as dad got the whole day with Peyton, and so pretty much from 6:30 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, it was just me and her. We ended up visiting my mom and a couple of my nieces and nephews, and actually saw my brand new nephew, who was only a couple days old, who just got home from the hospital, Luca. So that was pretty awesome. We got to see him, but it was cool spending the day with Peyton. And Macy also worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I got to spend a lot of time with her in the morning, just me and her, because Macy leaves before me. And then I got to spend a lot of time when I first got home, because I get home before her. So a lot of time, just me and Peyton, and she did pretty good. I will tell you, Brandon, I know a lot of times people joke and say, like, oh, when dads are watching the kids, they're babysitting, which, one, obviously, if you're a dad, you're not babysitting your own kid. But I will tell you, it is kind of cool getting the experience where it's just you and your kid for long periods of time, because, it's nice to have the backup, but when you don't, it forces you to kind of learn things and do some things that maybe you don't normally do. So it gives you kind of perspective, and also, helps you appreciate what your wife does a lot more often than you. And it also kind of helps you bond. I really appreciate those times because I get to bond with Peyton. But the other thing it does, too, is I think it helps Macy kind of see what it's like in my shoes, because she comes home late at night. And I know the one night she came home late at night on that Sunday, and Peyton was great all day, spent a lot of good time with her, had a lot of fun, and she wasn't really cranky the whole day. And then Macy got home, and she was cranky the rest of the night, which is a lot of times what happens to me. So I think it kind of helps her get that perspective, like, hey, that's tough to work all day and come home, and then you're excited to see your kid, and she's cranky. So it is nice. And if you are a dad out there and maybe you don't get a lot of time just one-on-one with your kid, maybe encourage your wife to go out for a while. It is a good bonding experience. So that's something that I've been doing that was kind of more so this week than even the past weeks. On top of that, Brandon, we had a lot of other stuff happen. We have had some ups and downs as far as the colickiness goes and crankiness goes. But one thing that happened is Peyton was having a lot of reflux again, spitting up a lot. I know we've talked about it the last few weeks, but it got to a point where Macy kind of was over it. So she called the pediatrician. They got her in for an appointment. She went in, and the pediatrician basically told her to, one, try oatmeal cereal instead of just rice cereal in the bottle and do a little bit more than they were recommending before to make it even thicker. But they also gave us a prescription of Pepcid, and she's been taking that the last few days, and it seems to be helping. So that is something that we got to help with the reflux. She's been spitting up a little bit less, and she seems to not be as upset after eating. So hopefully that continues to help, but that was exciting. But a big thing on that trip, Brandon, is we also found out that she has started teething, which between me and you, I did not know that was a thing at 3 months, but it is. So I did some research, and those of you at home, just so you know, most babies do start teething around 6 months, but it can start as early as 2 to 3 months. So super fun there. The good news is it's not really a cranky teething yet. She just seems to like to chew on a lot of stuff right now. So she's been chewing on a lot of things. She likes to have stuff in her mouth, and she's been drooling a lot more. But she doesn't seem to be too upset yet. But that brings me to my piece of baby gear today, Brandon, and that is everyone's favorite toy, Sophie the giraffe. So if you don't have this, we've talked about it before, but if you don't have it, it is a very expensive, soft giraffe that is
like
for
$30.
teething. Yep, it's for teething, but every kid loves it, and she, like every other kid, loves it, and has been spending a lot of time with Sophie the past week, so she's been playing with that a lot, and you might try to get around it, but it almost seems like you just bite the bullet and buy it, because the kids like it, and when they start teething, you'll probably want it to keep them satisfied, because it's either that or chewing on her hand or your hand, basically.
Yeah, Sophie goes with Bryce to his grandparents' house every day. That is one of the toys in the bag because he loves it. Nice.
But overall, too, Brandon, I will say that it seems this last week, and I'll knock on wood, she's been better, less. I'd say less colicky. She still has her moments, but she's been pretty dang good for the most part. She definitely has some moments. Through the night, she's been pretty good. You know, we still can't get her to sleep without contact. That's our biggest struggle. I told you a story yesterday. We were hanging out. I the other night put her down, and I felt more confident than I've ever felt my entire life. I put her down. I literally was thinking in my head, I'm like, I can't wait to go on the podcast and tell everyone how I put her down, and she slept for 6 hours or 4 hours. It was 5 minutes, and she was back up. But then she slept really well afterwards once she was with contact. But it was an eventful week, and we're hoping we're turning the corner on the colicness, and maybe with the medicine, we got the reflux under wraps, and, you know, we're making strides. I'm excited.
I mean, she was great yesterday. I think actually all the kids had pretty great attitudes the entire time we were hanging out. So it was no complaints on my end. I don't know what happened when you guys went home.
She was pretty good.
One thing you brought up that I do want to mention, and Macy kind of calling the doctor because she was just tired of it. We did have a slight incident with our doctor. I won't call it an incident. It's still ongoing. But we had the reaction to peanut butter. We called the after hours number, ended up getting with the after hours nurse, called the doctor, yada yada. And they kind of gave us some specific instructions. But in calling back like the next day, because they pretty much said, hey, do this and you're good. We did a little research at home, found out, hey, we can take Bryce to an allergist. We just need basically a referral from our doctor. And in calling back to the doctor, it seems like we were met with a little bit of resistance from the nurse, which was a little surprising. And it wasn't me on the phone at the time, but that is my main thing is make sure, one, the doctors, the nurses, for them, these are scenarios that they run into every day. So they don't know, or they should care, but sometimes it might seem like they don't care about your insecurity potentially or unsureness, if that's not a word, but we're going to make it one today.
I like it.
About what's going on. It's your job to advocate for yourself and advocate for your child. And ultimately, that's something that is very big to me when it comes to choosing a pediatrician and making sure that them and the staff are on your team. End of the day, the way I look at it, my money's going towards this. So if I need something done or I have questions, I shouldn't be hit with any kind of annoyance. So from a dad perspective, that's something where we have an appointment with the pediatrician on Tuesday. That's something that from my end, I feel like we're gonna address, because to me, that's something I would go to another pediatrician.
Well, yeah, you got to. I mean, you're going to be going there for the foreseeable future, so that's a good point. It's kind of funny. We've had similar experience, but not quite like that. Basically, the head pediatrician at our office is fantastic, and Macy loves him. I like him. The second person, and I forget what they're called when they're not the actual head pediatrician. Do you know the name?
PAs,
basically
we have PAs or
there's
nurse practitioners.
Yeah. There's a female one, and Macy and her don't jive as well, and we've had her a couple times, and I don't know why, because I actually myself, I don't really notice any difference, but it does seem like a preference thing. So it's something where I've told Macy the same thing. I'm like, hey, we're going to see someone. You can request to see the head pediatrician. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, if you don't quite like what the other one says or how they go about saying certain things. So it is important. I mean, you need to be able to feel comfortable with where you have your kid. So, and don't be afraid to say something.
And you don't want your concerns to be diminished, because this is the first time, in our case, it's the first time we're going through something. Things like allergies are scary, and you don't know. I mean, you can have if you're thinking worst case, obviously you don't want to, but those are sometimes life-threatening things. And if you see immediate reactions and you have questions on, hey, what can my child be around? You can go through the steps that the doctor tells you to go through, but if you have additional questions and want to see specialists, there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm getting off my soapbox now.
Well, on a lighter note, Brandon, I know that I'm someone that used to like to work out regularly, but since becoming a dad, it's become difficult. But yesterday, hanging around Bryce and holding on to him for about 15, 20 minutes, I feel like I got my workout in for the week. So anytime I need to work out, I'm just going to come hang out with you, because Bryce, I'll tell you what, he compacts a lot in that little body. So, yeah,
18,
I think
he's probably 18 pounds now by the time you
So, it's funny, the weight differences, because Peyton feels super light after being holding Bryce, but then I held my new nephew the other day, and then Peyton felt heavy afterwards. So there is kind of like, what you get used to. But, yeah, so I held Bryce yesterday, so I feel good about my working out this week. I don't think I have to hit the gym quite as many times.
What's crazy every time I think about it, because he feels heavy to me too, and then you look at it, and he's in the 50th percentile. So
he's compact. He's very compact.
Yeah. He's a thick boy. 2 C's.
That's funny. So Brandon, I know you said that you had a things your wife said this week before we started. So let's hear that.
It's pretty straightforward. I'm walking up to record, and she just looks at me and she says, "Being sick sucks, but being sick as a parent when your kid is sick sucks even worse." And it's just you kind of obviously nobody likes being sick, but Bryce has a little something going on. Her and I both are having some issues right now, and it's like we can't catch a break. It's like the flu almost has gone through the Banks household. So we're making it work. She's down there being a trooper right now while I'm recording, and then I'm gonna go relieve her once we're done. But we've each gotten a lot of solo Bryce time today as the other was resting.
Yeah, that is tough. I know I woke up this morning with a little bit of a headache, and normally when Macy gets ready in the morning, showers and stuff on the weekends, she gives me Peyton. And this morning I was thinking, I need to jump in the shower first, because if she hands me Peyton right now and she starts screaming or something, I don't know what I'm gonna do, because my head's splitting. So luckily I took a shower, took some aspirin, started feeling better, and it was all good. But I had those thoughts in my head too, like I don't know what I'm gonna do if I feel like this, and I gotta watch her for a long period of time. So it is no fun. But Brandon, let's get into today's topic. I'm super excited about this. I feel like we're gonna have a lot of conversations surrounding it. So top 10. Again, we're gonna talk about the top 10 surprises that we've had since becoming a dad. 5 good ones, 5 ones that we won't deem good, but we'll deem as other, maybe bad, maybe just different. But these are things that have surprised us, not things that we didn't expect, that have kind of come at us, and we're like, you know what, that's that's different. That's different than what I expected. So, Brandon, I'll let you kick it off, and let's start with a positive note. So why don't you hit us with one of the top things that have surprised you in a positive way about becoming a dad?
So in researching, as we found out we were pregnant, you get to the point where you see a lot of dads who say, because they're not the one who carried the child, when he or she, from a child perspective, first comes out, they don't always immediately feel that love, and they tend to. It's something that they kind of grow into a few weeks. For some, I saw a couple who said it takes a couple months. I immediately felt that connection and that love to Bryce when he first came out, and it was just something that it's hard to even describe. I don't know if part of it was because my wife had a C-section, so kind of I was there with him from the beginning, and had to do a lot to start, but. It was immediately feeling the love was a surprise because I was worried that it might take me a little while.
That's funny you said that, Brandon. Number one on my list is something very similar, and I thought you might say this. It's because we've read a lot of the same things, and a lot of people talk about how dads sometimes don't have that instantaneous love, not because necessarily they don't love their kid, but because they see what their wives went through and they kind of have some apprehensions about their wives being in pain, and also they weren't the ones who carried them, and different reasons behind it. But one, I had that instantaneous love, but what I put on my list is a little bit different. I did have that love right away, but what surprised me wasn't necessarily the love. What surprised me was my instantaneous need to protect her. I was very, very protective from the beginning. It was like overwhelming need to not let anything hurt her from the second that I saw her. So that surprised me, just how much, like, even small things, like people like my mom or my mother-in-law coming and holding them for the first time. Like, they were parents. They were good parents. And I'm all like, well, be careful. Like, they don't know how to hold a baby, just because I was super, super protective over her. So that was something surprising, but it was a good thing. Like, I felt like, instantly I needed to protect her. And I don't know if it was a little bit because she's a girl versus a boy. Probably not, but maybe that's something to do with it. But that surprised me. So, it's kind of funny what you said. It's similar, but a little bit different. Well,
not to spoil it, but maybe I'll just we can jump into it later. That is actually something I have as a not so good surprise, but it's wrapped around anxiety. But we'll get to that later. What's your first good one?
That was my first good one. Okay, the protectiveness. So that is my first good one. So,
we'll go into it.
Yeah. So you go into it. That can be your first not so good one. We'll go into that one.
It's this isn't something, in my opinion, it's kind of the definition of not so good. It's not bad, but I am naturally not anxious at all. I'm pretty happy-go-lucky, chill. But ever since he came out, I've had this weird, I'd say, postpartum anxiety, and my emotions also are on a different level.
Level 10, yeah.
Yeah, it is that I would describe it as that sense of protection. Like I it sounds crazy when I say it. I wake up often thinking that he's in the bed and panic, like something's gonna happen to him. I have it's weird for me. I've like literally watched in my head. I'm saying I watched. It's like, you ever seen Final Destination? Like,
yes.
Premonition, stuff like that. I'm gonna make myself sound crazy on this podcast. But like, I'll have like premonitions of like falling down the stairs with him in my arms, just like dumb stuff. So I'm like super cautious of like things around the stairs. Like,
I can't drive behind a truck with wood in it to this day because of that movie. Like, I legit will get to the next lane because I know. I get what you're saying. That anxiety is tough, For me, I haven't had the anxiety quite as bad on that. I mean, they definitely have moments. I actually am more of an anxious person in general, I think, so I've dealt with anxiety a lot throughout my life, so maybe I'm just more used to dealing with it. Yeah. The protectiveness for me is more of a positive feeling. Like, I feel like, she's mine, and I don't want anything to ever hurt her type of way. So, but my first not so good thing, if you will, is a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more fun. But what has surprised me is the number of blowouts that happen. Like, you always hear this term blowouts, And like in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, like there's like 2 or 3 blowouts that happen in your kid's life and you remember them and you talk about them for years. No, this kid's had 2 blowouts today alone. She has blowouts almost every day, 5-6 times a week. She's had, like I said, we've had to change her one day 5 times. She had 5 different outfits on, all because she pooped through the other 4. So that has surprised me. I did not expect there to be so many blowouts and that you had to change clothes so many times or wash them. She's in the bath right now. Macy just sent me a picture because she had a blowout earlier and got some on her. So that has been surprising, Brandon. Again, I wouldn't say it's a horrible thing, but it is kind of a surprise that I was like, I did not expect this.
Well, this isn't on my list, but maybe it should have been based on what you just said. The smell, too.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of prepare yourself, but I'm telling you, man, it is nothing like that.
It's instantaneous.
That smell hits
That's actually
you
things your
sometimes.
wife said. That's what my wife said today. She goes, it instantly smells. It does.
This man smells worse than I do. These are grown man farts, grown man poops that are coming out of him, and it just permeates the entire area that he's in. And it's
well, Brandon, on the same topic, I'll go right into another good one because it's related to this. But a good thing that surprised me is how little diaper changings bothered me. Like, I never changed a diaper before Peyton was born. I was not looking forward to it. I don't like things that smell. I don't like dirty things on me. But honestly, it really doesn't bug me. Not that I love doing it, but I really don't mind changing diapers, and I haven't minded since she was born. Again, not my favorite thing in the world, but I'm surprised at how little it actually bothers me. And if Macy's like, hey, can you change this diaper? It doesn't really matter. Or if I have her and she goes to the bathroom and I change the diaper, it doesn't really bother me. If we're out and I have to change the diaper, it's not been that bad. So maybe it'll get worse, but thus far, I've actually been pleasantly surprised at how little it bothers me.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that. As someone who had never changed a diaper before, you don't think twice about it. It needs to get done. You hurry up and get it done, and you cover your nose and tackle it. For me, the next thing would be, it surprised me how much my wife can handle, and you kind of mentioned it earlier from like the, like we get extended stays with our kids, but for the most part. Like for me, my wife is there with him a ton and a lot more than me based on my work schedule. And just seeing how the house stays maintained, she works a full-time job. It's just less hours than you and I work, but it's a full 40-hour-a-week job. And still somehow Bryce is taken care of, I'm taken care of, the house is taken care of. And it's a testament to probably wives everywhere just keeping the household intact, because really I feel like sometimes all I have to do is worry about going to work, coming home, loving Bryce. I do the dishes and everything else kind of falls into place. And obviously as dad, you pick up where it needs to be picked up, but sometimes I don't even have to worry about it. It's already done.
Yeah, no, definitely. You see a new side of your wife when they become a parent, and you fall even deeper in love with them usually because just the things that they go through and then what they can accomplish. Jerry. Yeah,
I'm messing with you.
No, it's true. It's a good thing,
You're right.
And the thing that I have on the not so good list, Brandon, and this is just, and it might be more just our specific situation, but. When you have a baby, in my mind, the baby needs lots of attention. You're going to spend a lot of time with the baby. I had no disillusions about that. But what I thought is like, okay, the baby's sometimes going to need to sleep. Sometimes it's going to be playing. And you're going to put the baby down. Maybe you do the dishes. Maybe you get something done. The amount of time that I am able to use both my hands is my surprise. I literally am almost always either holding her or doing something with her with at least one of my hands. And if I'm not, then Macy is, and I'm usually doing something to help clean up during that time. But it is very, very rare that both of us have both our hands available. Like extremely rare, and that has been a surprise. And again, not that I didn't think we would have the baby a lot, but I'm like, okay, she'll sleep for an hour and be in her pack and play, or she'll be in her seat or her swing. Well, that's just not Peyton. At least not where you're at least having to pay attention to her or put her pacifier back in her mouth or be next to her. So that has been a surprise that has kind of, you come to terms with, but it's been surprising.
If I was still at your stage in the game, I would have put that as one of my surprises, and it was a surprise for me. Other than napping, because Bryce is still a lot of times contact napping throughout the day. We have gotten to the point where he can be in like those stand up kind of play sets, things like that, and entertain himself. Like this right now, this has been the version of Bryce that we have right now is my favorite version of Bryce we've ever had, and a lot of it has to do like I'm watching him like he has like the stand up play set, and we started putting him in it maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then he went from literally like not understanding anything with it to now, and I'm kind of stealing one of my next points, but like we're 2-3 weeks in, he can work every single thing on that playset. He's grabbing like little knobs and twisting them and doing like what he's playing with them the way they're meant to be played. He's hitting buttons, making stuff talk. But so it's cool to watch. But on the other side of it, to your point, those are things that we can kind of put him in and leave him for 10, 15 minutes at a time. Like he's in the room with us, right? But we can drag him over, and that all took a turn probably about a month ago. He still has days like today. You basically can't put him down, but he isn't feeling well. But it has gotten easier the older he's gotten, and he's been able to entertain himself a lot more.
Okay. So what's the next one on your list, Brandon? Maybe not so positive
I'm gonna use
side.
that. So on the not so positive side, it kind of is the counterpart to how much my wife can handle, and it's guilt over being at work / not being there enough. And I kind of expected it, but one, dropping them off at my parents' house every day, it in the beginning was a lot tougher than I thought it would be. In my head, I'm like, yo, it's a reality. I got to drop them off. It is what it is. But that's typically in the beginning, that was his happiest time throughout the day. And then as soon as I would get home, he'd be kind of annoyed and crying. And so I basically knew I was handing him off at his best, and I'm going to see him later on almost at his worst for that day. That has gotten easier because, he's better going forward. But it's been tougher than I thought being away from home the amount I've been. And I feel like I actually have been putting an effort into getting home more than I normally would. But that definitely has been tough.
Yeah, and our job too, Brandon, it can be difficult because like we don't have set strict hours always. So let's say we're supposed to get out at 7. Well, sometimes we can get held, especially myself, I can get held to 7:30, 7:40, and that has been tough for me. I know that before, I just kind of was part of the job. I just knew it. Now, if someone keeps me late or I get held a little bit late, I get more annoyed than normal because it's like, what is going on? Brandon, just in case anyone hears any weird noises, my dog's apparently deciding to be a cat. So she's like trying to like go in circles and scratch her bed while I'm recording. So I don't know. Normally she stays upstairs.
I don't hear anything on my end. But I was wondering, I just like changed my name in our little chat here. I was like, why does this guy keep randomly side-eyeing the camera when I'm talking? I'm like,
well, it's my dog. If Raja decided she's like, I'm going to come down here, and at first she comes next to me and wants to like jump on the cords, and now she went to her bed, which is in the corner, and is doing like 17 laps and scratching at the bed like she's a cat. It's just funny. I'm like, what are you doing, dog?
I'm like looking at myself. I'm wondering if I said something weird. What is going on?
No, it's Raja. She just wants some attention.
Well,
you know
hey,
her.
Raja,
She's a little high maintenance.
It's fine. We love Raja.
Oh, we do. She's a good pup. Another good surprise, Brandon, and you kind of talked a little bit about this with what you were talking about with that activity center, but I've been surprised in a positive way at how interactive and entertaining babies can be. I've always loved kids, but I like toddlers and kids. I think like most guys relate more to that than newborns. Babies, not like I dislike them, but I just don't spend a ton of time with them. I'd hold, a baby for 10, 15 minutes, pass them back to the mom, And, you know, that's all I really got to spend with them. Well, now, obviously, spending a ton of time with Peyton because it's your own kid, I never realized just how entertaining and how much babies can do so quickly. Like, she can do a ton. Today, she was sitting up in her chair. She was grabbing this new toy we gave her. She was, you know, playing with that. She can, you know, follow your noises and sounds. She can laugh, make noises back. I mean, there's a lot of things she can do, and it's entertaining. I did not think I'd be this entertained by the newborn phase, and it's been great. I actually love this phase, and I didn't think I would necessarily love it as much as I do.
Yeah, and the next thing on my list was actually how cool all this could actually be. So I kind of mentioned it before when I was looking at the activity center, but watching someone experience things for the first time, how talkative he's been just from the very beginning, it's just way cooler than I actually thought it would be being a dad.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely been, like I said, the newborn phase specifically has been a little bit more fun than I anticipated. I was, you know, imagining all these things about being a dad, and almost all of them were when the kid was a little bit older. But this phase has been great. I actually was just thinking today, like, I kind of don't want to see this phase end because I'm enjoying it so much. So what's next on your list, Brandon?
Well, based on what you just said, that could go into things my wife said too, because I'm pretty sure we're back to let's have 5 more kids phase right now with how
I said when we have the next one twice today to Macy, and she about punched me in the face. So she's not quite there yet, but I'm there.
On my not so good, it's been you mentally think that you're preparing yourself for what a lack of sleep is, but you don't. It has surprised me how tired I actually am and can be on a daily basis. You dads out there who haven't had kids, you can read about it all you want to. Enjoy your sleep right now while you got it, because you don't really, and Jerry can attest to this even more than I can, but you do not understand the tiredness that comes with being a dad, at least for the first time on my end.
Yeah,
That's
you mentioned it.
my surprises.
You mentioned it in a previous episode, but you have a great understanding for how our dads fell asleep so often now, you know, when they're watching movies or just sitting on the couch. When my dad would always be just kind of dozing off. You know why now, because it makes sense. The next one on my list, Brandon, is kind of a little bit related to that, but a little bit different. Things that have surprised me in kind of a not so positive way. One of the things I would say is that how quickly life goes back to normal for all those around you. So like when you're pregnant and when you first have the baby, everyone is excited for you. They want to talk about it. They want to hear what's going on. But for me, I was back to work, and it seemed like after my first day back, day 2, everything was back to normal from everyone else's standpoint. And they didn't care that you have a 2-week-old at home. They don't care that you're tired. They don't care what you're going through. It's life's back to normal. Figure it out. Get back to it. So that was a little bit surprising because you're dealing with this craziness and all these new emotions and all this weird stuff going on, but everyone else is just like, yep, that's life. Keep going. So that's something that for a while I was like, man, this is crazy. Everyone's just acting like things are normal, and they're not normal for me right now. But it is what it is, I guess.
For me, on the good side, it's been. I mean, yesterday was a testament of this to us, but I was worried that like things would change significantly in kind of our immediate friend group, and I mean, we're still able to hang out with friends, have fun. Babies come with us. I can see a future where we probably all get together and just hire a group babysitter to watch the kids in the basement. That our friendships and friend groups as a whole haven't necessarily suffered to this point. If anything, we've hung out more in the last little bit than we did while our wives were pregnant. So it's not just you and I. We got a few other people in our friend group, and I think we've made a concerted effort to still hang out and have a good time.
Yeah, and it helps that a lot of us are going through similar things and kind of at similar points in our lives right now. So, you know, most of our conversations now center around being a dad or being parenting, and that's actually a surprise not on my list, but a surprise is that doesn't bug me as much as, you know, you don't want to only talk about being a dad all the time, but as of right now, I'm okay most of the time talking about our kids. It's been kind of fun.
And you know? Jerry, I'm sorry, I'm hijacking the episode because Tom Brady just announced that he's coming back to the Bucs. which is crazy. Which also will cause our conversation on if Matt Stafford's a top 10 quarterback to change for this upcoming.
Well, you know,
year.
Peyton's middle name is Brady, so and a lot of people say
you're
that I
not
did
mad
it after
about
Tom Brady. So I'm not mad about it. We all know that I love Tom Brady. I have a picture of him in Michigan gear and Patriots gear in my basement, so I don't think we're too upset about that. So I did see that just happened. Also, our Michigan Wolverines made the tournament, so even though they might not have earned it, I'm happy about that as well today, Brandon.
Hey,
But
that's a good thing. That was a surprise.
That was a surprise. Another surprise on the good side, Brandon, is, and we've talked a little bit about this, but one, again, I love kids. I love toddlers, but newborns, I often don't find that cute. And not that I find them ugly, I just don't find them that cute. And a lot of people will be like, oh, your baby's so cute. Oh, your baby's so great. And I just be like, yeah, it looks like a baby most of the time to me. I have been so surprised at how cute I find my kid. And I know I'm biased, but I just think she's the cutest kid ever. And I just can't get over at how cute I find her because I thought that it would be a while before I did. Because honestly, in my head, I'm thinking, like, I'm not going to say this out loud, but, you know, if my kid's in my head, I'm gonna be like, she's but she's not. She's freaking adorable, and I can't get over it. So I've been surprised at how cute I find my kid, and I don't care that I say that, you know.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, when Bryce was a baby, I legitimately thought I had the cutest little baby ever. And then as he's gotten older, and I go back and look at like the newborn pictures of him, I'm not gonna lie, I think to myself, I don't know if this kid was as cute as I thought he was when I was at that age. So I almost feel like almost the exact opposite of you. His mom's gonna kill me for saying that, but that's how I feel about it.
They do get cuter though. They do get cuter.
Oh,
like I find her cuter now than she was. Yeah, I find that too. You know.
But so, I look back at some newborns.
Bryce is a cute kid though. Like
Bryce is a cute kid, but hey man, looking back. He wasn't as cute of a newborn as I thought he was. Sorry, Kelsey.
I like it.
So, on my not so good surprises, one thing that has just bothered me is most of these like children's books that I've been reading him to this point have been absolute garbage from like a narrative standpoint. I haven't been impressed with them at all. Some of them are like cool. You got like your ABCs, your 1, 2, 3s. But from like a story perspective, it's like, hey, here's a yellow bug. Here's a blue bug. Here's a red bug. Here's a purple bug. The end. And it's more about the illustrations, which I get. But I don't know, man. I'm not expecting like Pulitzer Prize award-winning authors. But I want something with a little bit better storyline. So maybe that's in the books that I'm picking out. But a lot of these are like New York Times bestsellers. And it's just like very simple storylines that aren't that good to me. So that surprised me because I thought books were better when I was a kid.
I thought books were better. That one's not on my list.
We need to get into the book game, Jerry. Because if we get somebody who can just draw.
That is something I have thought before, though. I'm like, I feel like I could have wrote this. So,
100%.
You've
thought it. You've thought it on the toilet. You've thought it in the shower.
I've definitely thought it before. Yes, I've definitely thought
Here's
that.
a white wall. There's a bright lamp. I just created a kid's book.
But speaking of stuff, Brandon, on my not so great top 5, I would say I'm surprised at the amount of stuff we have that we don't use or I don't even remember.
Oh my goodness!
Like we have a lot of every day. It seems like I find something. I'm like, what the heck is this? Why haven't we used this? Or we're already past the time we could have used this. Macy just went through a ton of clothes today. Half of them I don't think I ever saw Peyton in, and we're putting them away in storage. I'm like, this is just that's surprised me. I knew we'd have some stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that I feel like we've never used or used once. And then some of the stuff that's the most annoying is what we had and maybe could have used and forgot we had. You know, and then you're like, I forgot we had that. That would have been great, you know. So I don't know. That's been surprising and a little bit disappointing, especially when it's coming out of your pocketbook. If other people bought it for us, whatever. But if I paid for it, I'm a little upset.
I don't know if I can talk about this topic, Jerry. I get a little emotional. I mean, even something as simple as I agonized over the car seat decision. Mm-hmm. And this little dude is about to be out of this car seat and into a completely new one that's even more expensive. And it's like, like I spent so much time. I spent almost more time trying to figure out what car seat I was going to get than the amount of time he's spending in the actual car seat. I don't know, but you are absolutely right. You start like doing a little mental math on how much this costs, how much that costs, and what you haven't used, and I'm gonna stop talking about it. I got a healthy baby. He happy. Apparently he's cute, even as a newborn.
He's cute. Heavy. Thick with two C's, as you said. I like it. Hey, so I got one more good one and one more bad one on my list, Brandon. I kind of lost track. Where are you at?
I have one more good one and one more bad one as well.
Well, let's hit the not so good one so we can end with good ones. What's your last not so good one?
Mine would be the initial strain on the marriage, and it's something that you kind of expect, and you psych yourself out, and you're like, hey, this is like, we're good. This is not gonna affect anything. But you got two people who are getting less sleep than they ever have, who from a male and from dad and mom perspective, there are like clinically proven postpartum emotional things that happen for a lot of people. And a lot of times that's not a breeding ground for good conversation or it's a breeding ground for lack of patience with certain things that would normally be kind of looked at differently. So that's something that Kelsey and I have had to learn to maneuver. I think that part of the reason I can bring it up now is I feel a lot better about where we are. But I'd be lying to you if I said that wasn't tough and hasn't been tough. Just either my lack of patience or her lack of patience at times, because both of us we're tired, and
yeah.
I'm an annoying person to deal with.
Well, it's also hard though, Brandon, because what I've noticed is that, you're either both working, you're taking care of the baby, she's taking care of the baby, you're talking about what to do for the baby, you're dealing with all this stuff. It leaves very little time to have normal conversations or to spend time together talking about things that you did beforehand, or what made you fall in love and be in this relationship. So that is something you have to navigate, and you try to make time for each other. And like yesterday, we went to hang out with friends, and it was a great time. But I worked most of the day, so actually Macy left Peyton at my in-laws for an hour before we went to our friend's house together, so that we had an hour after I got out of work, just us. And that was an hour, but it was really important because we got to spend some time together, just the two of us, which is rare. And small things like that can go a long way. So I agree with you. You got to kind of find your balance, find your rhythm, and you got to also be realistic and understand that it is going to be different, and that's okay. So you got to find your new normal, but it is something you got to grow together with. And you got to have good communication, because sometimes if you don't tell them what's going on, they don't know, because they're dealing with the same things you're dealing with: stress, lack of sleep, frustrations, those kinds of things. So it is something you got to work with. One. For sure. My last thing on my list, Brandon, is it's been really hard to figure out, like, to set a bedtime routine or just a routine in general, and that surprised me. I thought, like, okay, we'll set strict bedtimes, we'll set strict schedules for certain things. But kids kind of do what kids do, and even if you try to stick to it, they got their own plans in their head. And I know Peyton's a little bit more difficult than some kids, but that's been hard for us. And even, me, I'm a very process-driven person. I'm a very schedule-ridden person. I stick to plans. I'm a planner. In my vows, you were in my wedding, I talked about how I was a planner. It's hard to have a plan with the kids sometimes. So even though we have plans, that's been surprising at how easily they blow up in our face. So I've had to learn to let go a little bit of my plans and my schedule. So that's kind of my last surprise that is not so great.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I overachieved and wrote a couple additional not so goods down. And one of my last ones is, we've made exceptions to the hard set rules we had pre-baby. And we mentioned it last week. Like, You could have, if you'd have told me that we ever would have had our kid in a bed with us at any time while one of us was asleep, no. If you'd have told me that the TV would be on and my kid would be facing the direction that the TV was on at any given time, I would have told you absolutely not. But sometimes you gotta be able to live your life as well. Or you're gonna drive yourself nuts.
Correct.
And so while those might be exceptions that we don't frequently break, it's still. Those are absolutely things that we didn't think we would even tolerate before we had kids.
So what's your last good one, Brandon?
My last good one is about our support system. And I was afraid that I shouldn't have been, but I was afraid that like the day to day of like my parents watching them, or like something would come up and we would have to adjust it, and or like I don't know. That was one of my worries coming into it. Because sometimes, I mean, my parents are great and supported me my entire life, but that's a different level of responsibility. You watching it. That's a full-time job. You're watching a kid for 40 hours a week, basically. And I've seen time after time, well-intentioned grandparents start off doing something and then, hey, we can't handle this. So between my parents, Kelsey's parents are great. They literally come down almost every weekend. I think there's probably been 2 weekends since Bryce has been born that they didn't come down, and one of them they were out of the country. So they are here, supportive. Like I feel like on both sides we just have 2 sets of grandparents who are there for him, and he will never have to worry about anything on that end, and it helps us out a lot.
Yeah, I second that for sure. That has been something that's been great. I don't know if I call it surprising, but it's been even more so than what I thought it would be. My in-laws have been fantastic, just dropping everything and helping us out whenever they can, and super excited to do so. It's always funny. Like I'll leave Peyton sometimes, with my mother-in-law, but then I come home and it's my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and my sister-in-law all at the house because they all want to see Peyton. And then even like my mom came and watched Peyton last week, and my stepdad came to work at my house during the day so he could be around her. So it has been great, and even more so like the what they've been able to do and make an effort for it has been fantastic. But my last one, Brandon, my last surprise has been at how much going out with Peyton isn't that big of a deal. I was kind of really apprehensive when we became parents that like going out was going to be this huge undertaking. Like I was scared to go out in public and she'd cry, or she'd have, poop through her outfit, or this, that, or the other would happen. And I was like, I just don't want to go out that often with her. It's just too much, but it's not. And now we do it all the time. It's not that big a deal. If something happens, which it does, you learn to deal with it. So now it's pretty much the norm. Like we were out last night, all of us hanging out. And it's cool and it's fine, and you can keep living your life and going places. Just because you have a kid, you don't have to shell up and stay in your house. So that has been a positive surprise. So I was scared and anxious about it beforehand. Now, not so much. Not going to say I love her crying in the middle of a supermarket or a restaurant, but it's not as big of a deal as I think I made it out to be.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, that stuff is going to happen. You got to go out and do it. And that's something we need to do more, honestly. We go out and have dinner with Bryce sitting there. I'm still a little apprehensive about it. I know you guys did it the other day.
We just did it the other day, and it went way better than I thought it would go. But Brandon, I actually have a bonus surprise. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just a surprise in general that I kind of wanted to bring up. And that is I'm surprised at how fast and how slow time has gone since becoming a dad. like it's gone by so quick, but at the same time, I also feel like so much has happened, and sometimes someone said it this way. I think they said like the weeks are years, but the months are days, or something like that. Basically, like it's weird. It goes by fast and quick at the same time, and that has been surprising. And it's fun, but also scary as a dad.
That's probably the ultimate surprise. So that's a good way to end it.
I like it. So that was our top 10. If you have any and you're a new dad, we'd love for you to share them with us, so please do so. But Brandon, I got a dad joke for you because you went first today, so it's my turn. And
let's see what you come with.
It's okay today. So Brandon, I'm thinking about starting a new dating service in Prague, but I'm not sure what to call it. What should I call it?
I don't know why this is funny to me already. In Prague?
Yeah.
What?
Checkmate.
Interesting. That's a nice that's a geography joke.
A geography joke. Very daddish. Dads love geography.
Yeah,
so
I'm not mad
I thought it was funny. Yeah. But Brandon, like we said, we're going to be off next week. For all of our listeners that listen every single week, we appreciate you. We're just going to be gone for 1 week. So 2 weeks after this episode airs, we'll have another new episode, and we'll be back on a weekly basis for quite a long time after that, too. We don't foresee taking any more breaks for a little while after that. If you haven't already liked us on Instagram or on Facebook or checked out our new TikTok, please do so. Leave us a review. Tell us what's going on, what you want to hear about, what you're thinking. We'd love to hear from each and every one of you. But until next time, I'm Jerry, joined here by Brandon, and you've been listening to Dad Jokes.